In this particular video, we are going to learn about the negative exponent. So when you thought, man, I haven't seen a negative number in exponents yet, they're coming today. So today we are going to again and be introduced to our negative exponents. They do exist and they are there. So in order to do so, we're going to start off with just a simple one. Let's do the number 2 as my base, okay? And we are going to look at various exponents to use with the number 2 first to realize what the negative exponent law is. Okay, so with that being said, bear with me. We are going to start with, let's do 2 to the 4th power. And I want you guys to go ahead and expand that out. Then we're going to do 2 to the 3rd power and expand it. 2 to the 2nd power and expand it. 2 to the 1st. Technically, we're about to see 2 different exponent laws today. So again, go ahead and pause this video so you can go ahead and expand out your numbers by yourself first, and then join us again. Okay, so hopefully you have paused the video. So we are going to expand out our exponents. Okay, 2 to the 4th is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. 2 to the 3rd is 2 times 2 times 2. 2 to the 2nd, 2 times 2. 2 to the 1st is 2. I wonder what 2 to the 0 power is. Like, that just doesn't make sense. Well, in just a moment, hopefully it'll start to make sense to you. Okay, so I'm going to start by giving numbers to these, or a value to these. So I'm going to multiply all of these numbers. Okay, so let's do 2 times 2. That's 4. Times 2 is 8. Times 2 is 16. So again, in my head, I just went through and did 2 times 2, that's 4. Okay, times this 2, oh, that's 8. Times the last or leftover 2, so 8 times 2 is 16. So that number is 16. Okay, 2 times 2 is 4. Times 2 is 8. Okay, 2 times 2 is 4, and just 1 2 is 2. Okay, so I want you guys to think, is there a pattern that is happening as I move down each of these numbers? Like, what operation is allowing me to go to the next number? And if you're having difficulties with that, you could also think in reverse. Like, what operation can I do to go from 2 to 4? That's the same operation to go from 4 to 8. And the same operation to go from 8 to 16. So go ahead and pause the video, just think about that for a moment. And hopefully you have paused it, so I'm not just giving you the answers. But before we look at going down the table, or down the chart, I guess, I'm going to go up the chart first. So here we had a 2. Okay, the next time we increased another 2. So technically we multiplied by 2 again to go up this table. Okay, then I multiplied by another 2. See how we just keep multiplying by more 2s? And then we multiply by another 2. And then to get the next number, you would still multiply by another 2, and so forth and so on, okay? But today we're also going to look at going in the reverse or inverse or the opposite. And we know that the opposite of multiplying is dividing. So as we go down my chart or my table or my pattern, whatever way you want to look at it, we divide by 2 each time. 16 divided by 2 is 8. 8 divided by 2 is 4. And 4 divided by 2 equals 2. So as I use this pattern, I'm going to go down the table again, and let's divide by 2 again. So 2 divided by 2 is the number 1. So there's this exponent rule, exponent law, that anything raised to the 0 power is going to equal 1. So we can't put anything out there because it's 0. There's no 2's, but it does equal 1. And again, we are able to discover that by the pattern in math that we saw. Okay, so we're going to continue to move down this table again. So we have 2 to the 0 power, and then here we increase an exponent every single time. Now we're going to start decreasing exponents. So let's do 2 to the negative 1st power. Move this down just a little bit. Two to the negative second power, 2 to the negative third power, and 2 to the negative fourth power. Okay, so let's see if I can find a pattern. Okay, so before I start expanding, because you're like, I don't even know how to do 2 to the negative first power, like I was good here, Miss Sands, but when you started adding that negative, now I'm confused. So let's go back to the pattern. So hopefully you were confident your sound in 16 divided by 8, or 16 divided by 2 is 8, 8 divided by 2 is 4, 4 divided by 2 is 2, 2 divided by 2 is 1. Like hopefully we realize that as I move down this table, all I'm doing is continuing to divide. So let's continue just to divide, because with math, everything is in a pattern. Okay, so if I do 1 divided by 2, so again, off to the side, I'm trying to figure out which color I want to use. Off to the side, I'm really saying 1 divided by 2, or 1 over 2. Okay, and we don't have to make that a decimal or anything. I'm literally just going to write 1 over 2. Okay, now as I divide by 2 again, I'm going to cut the half into a half. Again, you have a half. Okay, now I'm going to split that in half. So now I have fourths. So let's just put 1 over 4. Okay, now the next time I divide by 2, okay, those fourths that I have, so again, this is the fourth from the other one. Okay, I'm going to split those in half as well. So now you have 8. So 1/8. Okay, and then the next one, as I divide by 2 again, you go from having 8s, and then that's a lot to put in this tiny circle. But as you can see, the pattern, the numerator, the bottom number is just being divided by 2. So then the next one is 1/16. Okay. You're probably like, okay, Miss Sams, that's great. I know how to divide, but can we get back to these exponent laws? Because that is what today's assignment is on. Okay, not a problem. Okay, so the first one we have 2 to the negative first power. What did you notice happened to my numbers once I had a negative exponent? Something you should notice is that a fraction was created. Okay, so with that being said, all we're going to do, so this right here is really 1 over 2 to the first power. Okay, or 1 over my number 2. Okay, that's how I got 1/2. This one is really just 1 over 2 to the second power, because I know that 2 to the second power is 2 times 2, which is 4. Okay, this one is really 1 over 2 to the third power, which I know is 1 over 2 times 2 times 2, which was 8. I already got that number up here. The next one is 1 over 2 to the fourth power, which I know as 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Okay, so anytime that you have an exponent and it's standing alone and it's negative, then another shortcut that you can think of, and the students have done from the past, is like the negative exponent gets to the bottom of the fraction or bottom of the division sign, or it goes to the numerator. However you want to think of it, whenever you see negative exponents, they automatically start to think, oh, it goes down to the bottom of a fraction. Now, that's fine and dandy for today, but we are going to have to kick it up a notch for tomorrow as well, whenever we have more negative exponents that enter our equations and our expressions. So again, whenever you have negative exponents, let's think of the pattern that we see. Okay, so we found the pattern. We were dividing by 2, and we continued that pattern down because, again, math patterns happen. And we realized that once we started to continue the pattern, my number got smaller and smaller and smaller, and it started to create a fraction. So whenever I have negative exponents here, my powers now go below the fraction bar or into the denominators. So really, 2 to the negative fourth is just 1 over 2 to the fourth. That's how I got 1/16. 2 to the negative third is really just 1 over 2 to the third. That's how I got 1/8. 2 to the negative second is really just 1 over 2 to the second power, and that's how I got 1/4. 2 to the negative first is just 1 over 2 to the first, and that's how I got 1/2. So it's basically the same thing that happened up here. The negative exponents are just written as a fraction because you're getting smaller and smaller, and I realized that based on the mathematical pattern that was happening. Okay, so anything, takeaways for today, anything raised to the 0 power is going to equal 1, and that could be like 5 to the 0 power, that's the number 1. 10,000 to the 0 power, that's the number 1. And your second takeaway for today is that whenever you have negative exponents, we're going to write them as a fraction. 1 over negative 2 is 1 over 2 to the second. Okay, hope this video has helped with your negative exponents, and we are going to be showing, if you're watching this video in the 2020-2021 school year, with virtual learning, we're going to put our independent practice work on page 9, and make sure you submit a picture of that to me on Google Classroom, and best of luck on your assignment today.